Democrats issued a sweeping document request Monday as Congress broadens its investigation into the White House. CBS News chief congressional correspondent Nancy Cordes has the latest.
It's a political hoax. There's no collusion.
President Trump shrugged off the Democratic move today, but its scope was sweeping. 81 individuals and institutions, a who's who of Trump world, were given 2 weeks to hand over financial documents, emails, and memos, anything related to, among other things, Russian loans and investments, presents from foreign governments, the firing of FBI Director James Comey, and hush money payments to 2 or more women.
Are you going to cooperate with Mr. Nadler?
I cooperate all the time with everybody. And you know the beautiful thing? No collusion.
The request, backed by subpoena power, went out from House Judiciary Chairman Jerry Nadler to the president's sons, his 2016 campaign officials, current and former White House aides, executives from Trump Organization, and some associates who have already been charged with crimes. Nadler told all of them he is investigating, quote, allegations of obstruction of justice, public corruption, and other abuses of power.
It's very clear that the president obstructed justice. It's very clear. 1,100 times he referred to the Mueller investigation as a witch hunt.
Republicans argued Democrats are just hedging their bets in case special counsel Robert Mueller comes up empty-handed. The president made a similar charge this weekend.
So now they go and morph into, let's inspect every deal he's ever done. We're going to go into his finances. We're going to check his deals. We're going to check. These people are sick.
And Nancy Cordes joins me now from Capitol Hill. So, Nancy, Congressman Nadler has said it's too early to discuss impeachment. But do these document requests suggest that Democrats are trying to build their case?
Well, they certainly would be a first step, Elaine, because his committee, the Judiciary Committee, is the committee that would oversee any impeachment proceedings. Now, what he has said repeatedly in interviews with us and others is that he's not focused on impeachment right now. That's something that would come well down the road. And what he's interested in doing right now is casting a very wide net, looking into a bunch of different what he calls abuses of power, obstruction of justice. He wants to look essentially at presidential actions that in many cases fall outside of the special counsel's purview, but which Nadler and many other Democrats say still may have violated laws and norms. And then Nadler says there will be time down the road to examine whether those are impeachable offenses and whether Republicans agree with them on that.
Well, the individuals have until March 18th to respond to the document requests. How realistic is that timeline?
Well, Nadler says it should be pretty easy for a lot of these individuals to comply because basically what he's asking them for are documents that in many cases they have already handed over to other investigators, either to the special counsel or to other investigatory bodies here on Capitol Hill. Beyond that, his lawyers say that they actually gave a lot of these individuals, and there are 81 of them, individuals and institutions, a heads up. So they knew that this letter was coming. It's not something that surprised them when they received it today. And finally, the point that the committee has been making is that it's not as if they are going to subpoena documents from these people on March 19th if they don't get all their documents in by the 18th. They say that they will work with individuals as long as those individuals are showing a good faith effort to try to hand all these documents over. But in some cases, Elaine, this is quite a burden. I mean, they are really asking for financial documents, for memos, emails, any other notes of conversations. In some cases, it's pretty sweeping and beyond the scope of what the special counsel, for instance, may have asked of these witnesses.
Well, we saw in your piece, Nancy, a lot of big names that Democrats are looking into. Are there any notable people not on that list?
You know, a lot of reporters noticed right off the bat that Ivanka Trump was not one of the names, and that was curious because her husband, Jared Kushner, is on the list. Her brothers, Eric Trump, Donald Trump Jr. are on the list. Why wasn't she asked for documents as well? And what the committee has been saying is, look, this is an initial request, that it's the first of several, and that just because somebody was left off of this first list doesn't mean that they won't get asked for documents down the road.
Well, all of this, of course, comes after the president's former lawyer appeared in front of Congress last week. Michael Cohen will testify again in the coming days. What are the big questions lawmakers will be pursuing?
Well, they still have more questions for him, Elaine, even after he testified for some 30 hours last week about some of his conversations with the president about Russian influence, about some of their Russian business dealings. And so what the House Intelligence Committee said at the end of his time with them behind closed doors at the end of last week was that he is going to come back and answer some more of those questions, and that he's going to bring some more evidence with him as well. We don't know exactly what shape that evidence will take, and we don't know whether we'll get a look at it because we're talking about the House Intelligence Committee, which normally does its work behind closed doors and in secret, as opposed to the House Oversight Committee, where we watched that huge spectacle when he testified publicly in the middle of the week. But nevertheless, he's coming back, and he says he's coming back willingly, which is key because we know that Cohen has been very eager to work with Capitol Hill. At least he is now, that he's trying to get a 3-year sentence reduced.
Well, finally, Nancy, there are reports that lawmakers are investigating whether Michael Cohen was involved in any discussions on possible pardons with the president. Why is that an area of focus?
Because one of the things that Democrats are very keen to look into, Elaine, is whether the president abused his pardoning power, whether he promised pardons to certain individuals if they would tell a version of events that was more favorable to him, whether he threatened not to pardon people if they told the truth about him. And so that's something that several different committees are interested in, and that's why they want to know what conversations, if any, Cohen had with the president on this subject. And they, and by the way, the House Judiciary Committee, in letters that went out to those 81 individuals and institutions, also asked several of them if they had had any conversations with the president about this issue, and if so, if they would hand over any notes or any other evidence of communications about that issue.
Interesting. All right, Nancy Cortez on Capitol Hill. Nancy, thank you.
You're welcome.